Hello, everyone. Welcome to This Week in Tyranny. I'm your host, Conrad Rogas. Today is October 12th, 2024. So, this is episode 97. I'm going to be talking about Social Security, retirement, and the cost of living adjustment, which means that Social Security went up by only 2.5% this year. In 2025, it will. Before I begin, it really must be the most hardcore news show on earth because I'm looking over what I'm about to say and it's pretty out there. It's pretty radical and, I'm going out there, but I've done this like almost 100 episodes now, so I'm expressing myself. I've really along the way stopped caring what people think. And I'm realizing that the stuff I'm talking about, it really is true. So it's important. So I'm gonna be real. I'm not gonna hold anything back. So it all worked out because October 12th. Did you know that October 12th today, Saturday night, as it is currently, it's National Savings Day? It was. October 12th is National Savings Day. It serves as an important reminder to plan for your financial future. Social Security is a vital part of any financial plan, and to recognize those who value the act of saving and to provide simple steps to show getting started isn't as difficult as it may seem. I just pulled that real quick. There's a day for everything, there's a holiday for everything, but it just happened to be October 12th, Savings Day. We're going to talk about savings. But the news happened October 10th, a few days back. The Social Security Administration, they announced that the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, is up by 2.5% this year. Basically, the cost of living adjustment is, retirement payments, Social Security payments. You get a set amount, cash amount each month, and it increases over time as, of course, everything as prices rise and inflation increases. So how much money you get actually does increase. This was news to me. I've said before, like, retirement's a scam because with inflation and cost of living, you're still getting the same amount of money, so you're basically getting robbed. So I didn't even know. I didn't know that the payments actually went up based on inflation. I thought these old folks were just getting robbed straight up, like broad daylight. Turns out that's not the case. So, but I wasn't exactly wrong. So that'll become clear. Last year, the increase was 3.2%, reading from an article now. In 2022, the increase was 8.7%, and in 2021, the increase was 5.9%. These numbers are calculated with a formula based on the Labor Department's Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. Now, spoiler alert, I think the Labor Department is bullshit, so I don't trust their numbers. We're going to let them have it. If you know anything about history, first of all, the word labor always means anti-free market. It means anti-industry. That's what labor means. It tricks people because it sounds like it's for the worker and for the common man. This is why it's the socialist word speak. It's the socialist motto, right? Everything about labor force. The Labour Party is the left-wing party in England. It seems like it's for the common man. I think it's exactly the opposite. It's against the interest of the working man, because the interest of a working man is to become a thinking man, which means to get better skills, better experience, better opportunities, and to eventually not just work, not just labor, but to cross over the barrier from worker to manager to administrator and to business owner, property owner, not just worker. That's in the interest of the working man. And labor has this connotation of being just work, just physical labor, physical exertion, nothing about mental exertion, nothing about ingenuity or innovation, right? Just work. And it's no coincidence to me that this word, labor, is used also to mean childbirth. And this is why socialism always has touched people's hearts, always appealed to the kids, to the young adults, to people who have a heart. They want to take care of people. It appeals to them because it appeals to the unconscious archetype of a mother with her child. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? With socialism and taking care of everybody and doing away with all of this exploitation. It's about providing for them, right? These people, providing for the people who work so hard and they need our help. But then also the other way around, of course, right? The labor force provides for the rest of society. I talked about that last week with the dock strikes, like, well, we're the ones who, thanks to us, you can live the way you do. So they provide for us, for the rest of society. So we feel it as like a connection, as if it was a connection between a mom giving birth to her baby. That's how we see it, unconsciously, of course. Okay, but there are two different ways to look at labor, two different perspectives. Labor, the way our society sees it, as a burden, as a painful physical exertion, something we value labor, but we value it for its end result. We value it like a sacrifice. No one enjoys it. The other way to see labor emerges, if you, again, you got to look at the word, you got to look at the symbolism. The word labor, labor, and the Latin word labium. The Latin labium is where that word labor comes from. It's the same word that the word lips comes from. Your labia are your lips, and the lips are what you express from. So when we're speaking, we're bringing something new through your lips, your labia. I know we don't talk like that, okay, in English, but that is reality. That is what we're doing. And then when a woman gives birth, she's also bringing something new into the world through her labia. And we call these labors of love, right? Right? There's a reason this is the same word. It's just like another very close word. It's just like libre is free, right? To liberate something. Anything liber is freedom. But liber also means book in Latin. That's why it's the library, right? A librarian. The same word for knowledge is the same word for freedom. Of course, this is the same thing. Same thing with labor, because this is about bringing something new. This is actually about creation and creativity. It's not supposed to be painful, terrible labor. We've made it this way. It's not supposed to be this way. Nature has designed us to be able to enjoy labor, both kinds of it. But who really sees their work that way? Very few people see their work that way. And who's talked about childbirth being a transcendent, joyful, enjoyable experience? Who has talked about that? I don't know, other than native cultures and hippies. Nobody. I'm waiting for the books on that topic to be written, because I know it's absolutely true. I'm just waiting for that information to come out. But it's obvious that pain and creation, they're not some sort of metaphysical conjoined twins. That anytime you create something that you have to suffer. And we see this a lot with our artists. They're tortured, they're depressed. It doesn't have to be this way. There is no necessary connection between suffering and creation. Now, you do have to struggle to create. You do have to labor to create. But labor does not have to be a painful suffering in the way that we experience it. It's just an experience, and nature has gifted us with the things that we need to be able to get through these experiences without suffering as much as we do. So pain and creation are not connected. They aren't, and this episode is all about exposing that, exposing the way that our labor and our concept of labor is used against us, okay, by tyrants. So I'm going to read the description of the Department of Labor and break down what it really does, not what it claims to do. And first of all, the first thing you need to understand about the Department of Labor is that it was founded in 1913, the same year as the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is, of course, the central bank of the United States. It created a debt-based system, right? So lending the government money, and then constantly they have to pay it back, so they keep taking money from the people, and there's interest on top of interest. Total scam. So the Federal Reserve created the debt-based system. Then the Labor Department manages how that debt slavery is to be conducted. It's a 1-2 punch against the wealth of America. And wealth is health. And I don't mean wealth as in rich. I don't mean just because you're rich, you're healthy. We've seen that that's not true. I mean, though, when you have enough to eat, when you can relax and you can spend time with your family, when you have time to stretch in the morning and exercise and meditate, when you have time to recover from your injuries, from your illnesses, when you have the money to pay the most talented healers and caretakers, when you can afford the best food, when you can afford good water, you're going to be healthy. When you can afford to live in an area where you don't have to stress, you're going to be healthy. Let us not pretend that wealth is not something that we want or deserve. And there are three things in history that have always gone together and always will: health, wealth, and knowledge of self. And that is a KRS-One quote, the greatest rapper of all time in my view. Okay, I'm gonna consider this person a teacher of mine where I grew up. I didn't. Nobody just is born intelligent. Okay, I've listened a lot more than I've talked in my life. I'm not a talker, but I'm digressing. Just I quote the people. I give credit where it's due. I do that because it's through these relationships that I've acquired what I've acquired and have been able to develop my gifts. Okay, I was gifted in ways, but I wouldn't have found my gifts if it wasn't for people bringing me things that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise. So knowledge of self, that's what brought this world out of the hopelessly laborious dark ages. People learned, like we're talking about the Renaissance now, right? People learned that they weren't slaves, that they weren't unconscious loose ends of an original sin. They're living beings that had value. And that knowledge of self, it led them to seek social reform, to seek freedom, and to seek eventually a new life. And that became the immigration to America and then the American Revolution. But not only those things, because on some level, this happened all around the world and it all happened simultaneously at the same time in history. Why? Because this planet is a living being, the whole thing with us in it. We are the planet. So when one person attains knowledge of self, it reverberates inside the cells of every human being. It really does. And for all my Christians, that's what the life of Jesus Christ was and is. The Bible is dead. God is alive within. That is another quote from KRS-One. Okay? And it's true. It's great, but live it now. Time to live it now. Time to be the main character now in this story. And that's why I stress selfishness. I stress self-interest, because it's the only lasting way to help others. All the time throughout history, people, those who achieve health, wealth, and knowledge, they want to share it with the rest of the world, but then the rest of the world hates them for it, and they kill them for it. Well, my answer, the 2024 answer, how to do this, is what I brazenly call selfishness, just like Ayn Rand. And I mean, and this is me now, not Ayn Rand, selfishness as in, I'm going to do the right thing, but not because God is watching, because I'm watching, and I want to be worthy in my eyes, not anyone else's. So in other words, yes, I want to help the world, but I don't tell them, show them. I'm trying to show this, how to get out from rock bottom and build yourself into something. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm showing you how to do it. So this health and wealth, by 1900 in America, this was achieved to such a high degree, it's a comfortable life compared to centuries of hard labor, and the illnesses now are disappearing. All this pain is going away. Knowledge being almost unlimited because of the free exchange of information. And look, I'm not romanticizing America, but just look at it honestly. Like 120 years ago, it was such a foundation of health and wealth built up that it took 120 years to waste it. And in many ways, the freedom and riches of this country still haven't run dry. It's still there. And that's why the Federal Reserve, the government of the USA, the Department of Labor, they've been flushing anything valuable down the drain, not just since 1913, but long before. This is something like pre-government. It's pre-nation states. It's pre-tribal. And I'm talking about tyranny and control as a whole now, like the abusive mentality as a whole. Tyranny is simply and plainly psychological in origin. And here's how. It goes like this. A person that cannot provide for themselves is going to look for somebody else to take from. That's basically, you could end it there. That's the origin of all violence, tyranny, slavery. First and foremost, that is the origin of rulership and authority. There are people who cannot provide for themselves. And I don't mean physically, right, in the sense that they're not strong enough or they're hurt or they're deformed. I mean in the sense of value. Like value in the sense of satisfying their own mental and spiritual needs, their emotional needs, I should say. And the result of that with these people is they developed a fear-based mindset. I think the word fear is like not defined well, or it is defined well, but it doesn't say what is really meaningful with that concept. So another way to describe fear is it's a separation from peace and security. And in this case, I'm talking about that internal peace, like a self-value, self-acceptance, right? So fear then, what it does is it leads to powerful neuroses, compulsions, and perversions. And that's what the people in power in the ruling classes do. These people, they apply their obsessive thinking, which fear causes. Fear and stress causes you to obsess. Okay, this is just how it works. This isn't like a bad thing, but this is how we deal with fear and stress. They apply their obsessive thinking then to develop entire schemes, entire systems, and entire structures to play out a fantasy or a narrative that within that fear-based thinking, it satisfies their existential hunger and dread. They have an existential fear because they don't know who they are. They lack a self. It's a lack of identity. It's a lack of value, right? These people, maybe they can somehow swindle their way to some money, or they were born into money, but they don't know who they are, and there's a constant panic now, and control is all that they know. Why do you think these kings, these rulers, over the ages were interbreeding, and they're so obsessed with social Darwinism, with keeping their genetics in their blood? And this is where racism comes from, and all this. It all comes from this fear that they will lose who they are. So they think in such a materialistic sense that they literally wanted to save their genetics, save their blood. This is before epigenetics. We know now that it's really not that important, because regulation and gene expression, it can alter your DNA now, right? DNA is much more so about water and vibration and frequency, right? So, long story short, these people develop all these systems of control to play this out. And demons, vampires, evil spirits, all this stuff, those are just old world attempts to convey that concept that you just heard laid out plainly. And it must just be the way free exchange of information works, because I hear myself saying things that are like, oh my God, it took thousands of years of occult research to like put it that simply. But it's really not me. I give credit to the people that have influenced me, these philosophies, and at this point we've seen so much that there is so much information out there. This is simple and plain. These connections now, they might be like, they might not be that obvious, but to me, who's been 97 episodes, this is simple. Like, this is day one shit. This is introductory stuff, and yeah, I'm eager to share it with you guys every week. Wholesome moment. So the point being to all this is that for people like that, these people who cannot provide for themselves, For them to survive at the expense of the sane, of the innocent human being, they must keep their victims away from knowledge of self. Because if we figure the tyrants out, if they figure the tyrants out, then they're going to figure out that the tyrant cannot live without their consent. And then the tyrant will have no host to feed on. Okay? And that's why the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, the Department of Labor around that time. World War I started in 1914, then the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, right? All of the communism. It was all an assault on the health and wealth of the entire world. So, Department of Labor, though, let's get into the specifics about this story and read what it's all about. According to them, the purpose of the Department of Labor is to foster, promote, and develop the well-being of the wage earners, job seekers, and retirees of the United States, improve working conditions, advance opportunities for profitable employment, and assure work-related benefits and rights. I'm going to go phrase by phrase and break that down, what it really means, okay? Develop the well-being, they start with the wage earners. And of course, the wage earners have to be the basis. You need to have your soldiers on the ground that form the bulk of your force that you claim to stand for. What they really do is they use the labor force as a singular pressure group. They make them easy to control through the workers' unions and you know, whoever can offer them better conditions, more money. You've got now a very easy majority of people to keep you in power. But really, it's not about the wage earners. They only say that because they have to say that, right? Now, wage earners and then job seekers. Job seekers means unemployment. Okay, so as I get into this is what I'm saying. Like, this is a little bit rough. I'm not just heartless like that. My roughness is gonna be, I'm going to back it up with like, there's tough love, and then there's like warmer love, and then there's just like, you got to look at reality, you got to look at the whole thing, look at both sides of the coin. So stick with me here if you're still here. When they say job seekers, they're talking about unemployment, and unemployment means to give something for nothing. And I do not get this. If you're not working, like if you're not doing something for somebody and they don't want to pay you, why should they have to pay you? So like, why is there this fund? Or you know, maybe there should be a fund, but the unemployment fund should be voluntary. And let's do that. We can do that. Everybody can put money in an unemployment fund, and then when somebody goes on, but nobody would want to do that, of course, because if people really get down to what they think about this, they don't agree with this. Now, I agree with the safety net. I think most people do. But I never agree with forced sharing. This whole public funds thing is a joke. And the thing about unemployment is it shouldn't exist, right? Unemployment should be something like very temporary. It's like, there are shelters if you lose your house, but if you lose your house somehow, you're really like, you got to figure something out now. You're like, not a week from now, like now. But this is why we need to save up. And it's, you know, National Savings Day is running out in 1 minute. It's 11:59. But we'd be better off if we saved for eventualities where we do have unemployment. And really, I think a better solution would be if there were less of these regulations, then there would be jobs that you can kind of just go to overnight. And a lot of jobs you can go to overnight. And it's better than unemployment, because you are actually earning something. And at the end of the day, nothing in this world comes from free. But that's not true, and I'll get to that. But forced sharing is off. And another thing that's off is the retirees. Retirees means non-productive. The people who are retired, they're no longer productive, okay? So do I think all seniors should be left to die? Obviously not. Okay, obviously I don't believe in kicking them out onto the street. So I'm going to get to all that. But the important thing with this is 2 of the 3 groups that the Department of Labor is working to advance the well-being of, they're groups that cannot provide for themselves. In other words, they're the same as government. In other words, these people, the retirees, the unemployed, and the government have a shared interest now to live off of the effort of the young, the creative, the productive, in other words, the willing and able. And I'm not, it's not technocracy, okay? I'm not being a fascist, okay? Trust me. This is how reality works. Then continuing, they say improve working conditions. I got to translate these things. Improve working conditions means for small businesses, especially small businesses, not big corporations, because big corporations, they get the kickbacks from government. But it's to force small businesses to jump through hoops to create these working conditions. It's not about better conditions. It's about, again, taking resources away from what creates the job opportunity in the first place. Okay, the employer that, that's the guy creating the jobs. So you're taking resources away from him and putting those resources into meeting an arbitrary government demand. And it's inevitable that this is fines, right? Permits, tests, inspections. This is how they make their money out of nothing, just because they set these standards. It's nothing other than extortion. It's robbery. Next phrase, they advanced opportunities for profitable employment. That means they force businesses through incentives to give jobs to the people that the government wants in those positions. And yes, this is all the anti-racist and anti-sexist hiring practices, affirmative action and all of this. So they sound good, but they really are not. Because what they are is a way to make women and minorities think that they cannot provide for themselves when they actually can. And thus, again, their interests align with government. They can join with government because, again, they have a common enemy, the producer and the provider that actually is feeding them. And I shouldn't say feeding them because it's a even exchange. But the person that creates the opportunity, that actually makes the money, that is actually making the money and making it flow through the company to you, that is the person you're having a contentious dynamic with. That's what we're talking about, advanced opportunities for profitable employment. How can the Department of Labor do that? Are they advertising on Craigslist? No, they're not. They're talking about putting regulations on businesses that make them hire you because you're from a different country, because it's not your first language. All of these things that sound good because they sound like you're helping the disadvantaged. No, what you're doing is placing restrictions that make everybody disadvantaged. And final phrase, and assure work-related benefits and rights. What are work-related benefits and rights? So it's like a continuation of improved working conditions, but it's not. Where it interestingly differs is that this is the idea of entitlement now. And entitlement is the next step of the tyrant's mindset. It's the idea that makes the dependent one think that they're the boss now. And they demand all of these benefits and all these offerings from the employer. Paid time off, holidays, even maternity leave. And again, like I know what you're gonna like. Who would be against maternity leave? But again, I don't understand. In any other day, 24 hours a day, you want an even exchange. Everybody always wants justice, right? We want an even exchange. We want to get paid the fair amount for what we work. So if you're not working, you don't get paid. And here's the thing, I do believe in maternity leave because I don't. So now, of course, like right, a woman gets pregnant, she should have money saved up. Of course, her husband should be helping her. But I don't like, she's thinking about her child in that state. She's in a vulnerable state. I don't think she should be fully financially dependent on somebody. So she should have an income. But here's the thing, again, it should be voluntary. All these things that I'm saying are scams, they're fine as long as they're voluntary. And I do think there should be maternity leave. And where I work, my boss, the guy I work for, he gives bonuses out. And he will pay for work that wasn't done for a holiday for these things. It's voluntary. Nobody makes him do it. And that's how it should be. because that ensures that that dynamic between the employer and the employee is mutually beneficial, the way it should be, the way relationships are, not this contentious dynamic where I'm laboring for the man. And this right here with the work, with the benefits and the rights, this is the next step of brainwashing with the entitlement that has worked on us all. We feel like we are the ones who owe uh, them. So like we owe everybody all these rights and benefits. Like we are dependent on government now. We are dependent on their institutions and their society and what the crowd does for us. It's a reverse psychology. The government depends on us, but we act like we are the beneficiaries of their protection and their, insurance and their retirement and their Medicare and their police force and their army, the army that protects us. No, it's bullshit. I am not dependent. I need nobody. But I would die for my loved ones and they would die for me. Why? Because I'm selfish. I'm selfish to the point that who I do love, I love them even above my own primal based survival. Much more so. Okay? And I love them because they're mine. They're mine, and there's nothing and no one that could replace them. And nothing and no one can replace me to them. That's how that works. So my mom doesn't work. I support my mom. Not because of like some sort of cultural or religious duty that a son has, like a moral duty that a son has to their mother. I don't give two fucks about cultural duties. I support her simply because I love who she is. It's an act of pure joy and self-interest. And now if I fall ill or I have an accident, my family, they will take care of me, and they have. And actually, you know what? The government and social services, they have played a role in it. I did benefit from insurance settlements and free healthcare. I admit that. But let's not forget, we the people paid for every dime of it 10 times over. Don't you dare tell somebody that they should be grateful to this system. We not only built this system twice over, they're cutting money off the top to line their own pockets as they're cutting down the system to make us work harder to rebuild it back up. We have to be grateful to them for what? They're poisoning the air, they're poisoning the food, they're poisoning the water. Where is your family, your nation, your culture, and your religion fighting against it? They're silent as a fucking church mouse, nowhere to be found. Bunch of bitches in the world, straight up. Where are your allies? I don't see them. Where are our allies? I don't see any of them on the ballot. Fuck them all of them. Knowledge of self is your only ally. And loving relationships with people, they're your only safety net. Those are your allies. Knowledge of self and relationships, loving relationships. So let's go into that now. Am I really advocating for the end of retirement? Yes. This isn't even a crazy idea. This is an obvious idea. So we already talked about this. As Social Security payments increase, so do the payroll taxes at the same time. So they say the benefits increased only by this much. Also, the taxes increased. So we're paying more taxes. Okay? So no one is actually getting anything for free anyway. There's actually no such thing as this retirement. You actually worked your ass off for it, and you're getting less. You're getting less than you would have if you would have just saved it. And in theory, if we trust the Department of Labor's adjustment to be fair and accurate, you've paid for your retirement over the course of your life, and basically it was just a savings fund. You could have just had a savings fund. But I personally don't trust it one fucking bit. And in practice, what they do is the cost of living actually goes up way more. Inflation is one way to measure it. It's just one way to measure that. But the actual price to maintain a standard of living relative to the present day, that's something that depends on many, many, many factors, and we don't actually know what it is. Why do we trust the government's numbers? So the government then simplifies it for us, and they're going to claim that this offset, this 2.5%, is is equal to the rise in cost of living. When in reality, what they're doing is they're taking a cut of the money. A percentage is sliced off the top. And that's what taxes are anyway, right? Retirement is just a scheme, but it's based on a painfully simple and ancient game. It goes like this: like the swindler, he's not gonna rob you. He's not gonna put the gun in your face. He has to somehow convince you willingly to put your money in his hands and to let him hold on to it and give it back to you later. But when he gives it back, of course, he's gonna keep some money to himself. Of course. Of course he will. And I don't get this. What makes him different? Why outsource your money to a middleman? Because that's all it is. We've outsourced our labor. I don't get that. Now, we do it with banks. We all do it with banks, I know. But banks actually do provide an actual service. And it is as dumb and simple as convenience. All banks do is they allow you to use a card. Now, I'm not talking about credit cards because that's a different story. Just the fact that you're holding your money in a bank, it allows you to do business in a way that you would not be able to in the current system. It's really a different conversation. But at least there is a convenience justification. There's an actual service that they perform. What does retirement do? How does retirement make your life more convenient? Like, you have to go and get these payments. Was that more direct than you having your money the whole time? I mean, it gets a little bit ridiculous because of how simple the concept is, but it's not really about this, okay? It's really, I'm getting from one thing to the next. The point is, we for some reason want to be spoon-fed our daily bread. This is the problem. It plays on fear. Retirement is an inherently fearful, fear-based concept. It's that one day you're going to wake up and you're going to have nothing. That's how it goes. It's not quite like insurance. It's that you're going to wake up and you're not going to have it anymore. Retirement and Medicare is all based on the premise that human beings cannot provide for their own needs. How? Because they can spend it or they could lose it if the government doesn't protect it for them, right? So, in other words, you're unable to look out for yourself. And this is, again, we're right back to it. That's the primary psychological cause of all tyranny and control, that you can't take care of yourself. Now, if you have something super valuable and you live in a dangerous environment, you pay somebody to basically take care of it for security. That makes sense. I get it. But let's not pretend like that's what retirement is. People, not only can we save money and hold on to it, we can make a whole lot more money without these taxes. And then we can use the savings to make more money. The way wealthy people do. Their money is always in circulation. They're not there. They're not sitting. It's not sitting there dead, because that's what the government does with the money. Okay, we give it to them. They're using it to make more because they're constantly taking that percentage off the top as the engine of society continues to run. We're constantly producing, right? So we would all be better off without that safety net, actually. The safety net is what makes people bad with money in the first place, because we've never been used to having assets to manage. It's like a kid that never learns how to cook. They grow up, by the time they're out on their own, they're dependent. They can't manage the kitchen. Well, the training wheels never came off, so we still depend on the training wheels. And that's what this is all about. It's about the sense of safety. Okay? It's not about really protecting someone from robbing you. Okay? Let's not pretend like that's what retirement is about. It really is a psychological bond between you and government, and it's making you long-term dependent on their narrative and their outlook of society. That's what it does. We're constantly, the people who are like living, who are producing, the people who really need to live right now, the people whose future is in the balance, and who are now starting to have children, and the future of everybody is dependent on that. They are carrying this weight of these old people, these seniors. And again, I know how that sounds, but the weight is not from them not being productive. The weight is from them aligning because of this thinking about safety and thinking about death and thinking about health that inevitably we all are going to get when we get older. I get this. I get that this is how it's going to be when you get older. But because the government preys on that, they prey on the most vulnerable. They are being used as a pressure group against the interests of the current adult and young generation. That's the game. It's all about the sense of safety, and unfortunately, there is no safety in the world. If you put all your trust in one place, it can be gone in a second, no matter where it is. So a power outage is going to shut down your bank. A market crash is going to shut down your bank. It's not really safe. If you got cash under the bed, anything you have, a fire destroys your savings. You got a fire in the house, you're done. Then you get robbed. Well, your savings are gone. Either way, it's at risk. There is no safety here. Either way, you can estimate that a bank or retirement fund is more safe than money under the mattress. But at this point, I wouldn't trust that. Yeah, I'd say your controls that you can establish in your house are much better. Bolt your fucking door down, and you will be able to protect yourself. Now me, I would risk it. I, of course, would rather ride and die with my ability to manage my funds rather than to give it to someone else. But there is actually a real answer to securing your retirement, not in a cavalier way, like not in my way, but it is a distribution of your assets in different locations, leaving it to different people, different types of purposes. Like they say, diversify your portfolio. Well, you should diversify your savings as well. Have some of your money here, have some of your money there, right? With family, with all these different things, and in assets, okay? Varying levels of liquidity. This would be the smart thing to do. Maybe we would do this if we weren't busy 10, 12 hours a day laboring and then trying to drink and relax and watch football the other few hours and worrying about paying these taxes and these fees. You know, if we really lived in a world where there's no safety net, maybe we would manage our lives better. So what I'm describing is like a spider web. You got to have a bit of your trust, your trust of the future, your savings. Have it put aside in different places, like a spider web. So one string gets cut, you got somewhere to run to. You have 7 different strings on the web to retreat, to move, and to build back. And this is where it all comes full circle, actually, because once again, there actually is safety in this world, but it's not physical. It's psychological and it's emotional. And what assures your safety truly is the relationships that you have. And when you really start living life is when you develop the kind of relationships that ensure your safety. So you no longer feel uneasy and you feel anxious because you've got somebody that has got your back. So earlier this week, I was using an angle grinder, right? Metal cut-off blade, corded one. And I was cutting off nails because I was removing some siding. And basically, I put it close to the concrete. It must have hit something. And the blade, part of the blade, I should have had it with me to show you, snapped off and hit me directly in the eye. Wasn't wearing any safety equipment. And at that moment, you get that impact, everything goes, blurry. I didn't lose my vision all the way. But I'm thinking at that point, if I go blind, I have people who are going to help me. There is safety there. So I thought about the value of those relationships. But in that moment, I thought number one, the relationship that I neglected is the relationship with myself. I should have known not to do that without those safety glasses. And I actually committed the cardinal sin, which is I wasn't being selfish enough. I should have never touched that thing without the safety goggles, right? But that's the thing, something goes wrong, you have relationships, you have people that are going to help you. And safety comes from ultimately how much you value, how much you love, and how much you respect yourself. And that also means respecting your time and effort. So, taking it back to retirement, do you outsource your future to a government? Because I don't. I leave it to my loved ones. Trust me. My mom retired about a year ago, right? She doesn't get retirement payments. A lot of Polish people do, like, because you get it from the Polish government, of course. But that's the thing. Governments go insolvent all the time, just like any other business. We hear about government shutdowns in the United States every year. Every year when they're about to pass the budget bill, they're talking about a government shutdown. 4 years ago, the whole world shut down. And then people did get those checks then. People did get money, but next time they won't get the money. And that's just how it goes. There's a little bit of a safety net for a while, and then it gets cut down because it was always an illusion of safety with government, because they're not out for your safety, they're out for your dependence. So anyway, my mom retired, and she doesn't have to worry about income. She doesn't believe me on that. She's not quite comfortable with that, but I tell her, you don't have to worry for the rest of your life, because I'm her retirement fund. And the only way that's going to be jeopardized is if I'm killed, imprisoned, or somehow lost my health. All things that could happen reasonably, eventually, could happen. And if it happens, it happens. But let me tell you this. As things stand right now, I, Conrad Rogas, I'm standing poised to outlast the United States government. Very unfortunately, because this thing is circling the drain. The Western governments, the world in general, is circling the drain, and I am just emerging from the drain, from those sewers, from the canals, to build up and touch the heavens. I'm trying to build up into the heavens. You feel me? Like, I'm just getting started here. I'm not tired of life. I'm not that young. I'm 28. I'm not tired. I don't get tired. I'm not tired of life. I'm loving life. There's shit to do. And I know that these people that are in control, they're living miserable lives. They're really struggling. It's a constant battle with these people, because that's how it is when you're living life wrong, when you're evil, when you're dependent on others, when you're manipulating others. It's like a constant uphill climb. Well, I'm over here, I feel like I'm on a gigantic wave, surfing, just fucking having a blast. So, time to have some more faith in us. That's the way I see it. And maybe if I didn't have so much faith in myself, maybe I would have lost my eye. Think about that. But anyway, someone who knows you and has a personal connection to you, that's who should take care of you. That's who can take care of you. That's who knows you the best. That's who knows what kind of decisions you need to get done. Hey, unfortunately, we might get hit with dementia, right? And we won't even be able to make decisions. Who are you trusting then? Should it not be somebody who you loved, who you're connected to throughout your life, who you have time with, you have experience with? I ain't betting on no institutions and no structures or social programs. The only thing in the world that you can bet on, you can bet that when somebody loves you, nothing is going to stop them from taking care of you. And even that can end. Even that can end. Relationships end, but your relationship with yourself never ends. You take that with you past this life, past time and space. And so your knowledge of self, your triumphs, your memories, your trials, your self-worth, and your principles, it is within that relationship that you also keep your memories, the memory. You keep the relationships that you had, the relationship you had with someone you loved. You take that with you. You can't keep them. You can't hold on to them and take them with you. When it's over, it's over. But you with that relationship with the self, which is very real. Okay, you take that with yourself and you still have it. So if you had a loved one in your life that's not there anymore, it wasn't just an accident. It wasn't an accident and now they're just gone. You experienced them in your life because of who you are. Again, it all comes back to you. And you carry within yourself the ability to go there. To go there at any time, past time and space, provided you can keep going forward. Provided you can keep moving forward and be the person that you have the capacity to be. That's a whole different way to approach life. Not holding on to what was, desperately holding on to something that's slipping. I think that's how we're living. We're desperately holding on to our youth, to our, to our money, to our savings. We're holding on like this. And that's not the way to live. We have to face the future with eagerness, with confidence, and courage. And that sounds good. I know in practice it's not going to work for everyone. That's why it's so important to do it while you can. Because you can't always. You can always. If you lose your arms and legs, you're just not going to be able to have that type of confidence and courage. Like, I know we like to think in overarching terms, we can say that mind over matter, we can transcend any type of physical existence, but it's really not true. If you're in a state of illness and pain, you're not going to be able to just mentally conquer things. This is why the physical is so important. This is why we need to take care of each other. We need to take care of ourselves. So I was thinking about this YouTube channel with this young guy who used to drive a forklift, and then a bridge collapsed, and then he had the forklift get on top of him, and he did lose basically his arms and legs now. And this couple, they're still together. It's a really nice story about, well, nice in the sense of them being together and being there for each other. And you could tell they look tired. It's not easy, but they're together. It's still there, right? What better example of of a safety net? That is, again, the perfect example of your relationship. There is your safety net. It's not even the example that I wanted to give, but it's true, and I thought of that, so that's the way it is. That's the only thing I would trust. And this whole thing that I laid out, I know my view of life is radical. I know it's crazy, but especially now in 2024 in this system, we've had thousands of years and it wasn't good. Things did not used to be good. There were some good things about a traditional lifestyle that people seem to love so much. I look back at the 70s, at the music videos in the 70s. I'm like, damn, life was good in the 70s. And I'm sure you could say, life was good in the 1600s in some ways, but things are changing, and what will create health and wealth is different now than the things that we wanted to do in the past. I was thinking of like a way to connect it all. Basically, you can't look back at the past. That's the way to connect it all. It is the things that worked in the past, you cannot count on them, because look at the results. We are not doing good. The vaccines, the water, the food, the way we're toxifying the environment. You guys who are parents, look at how hard it is to connect with your children, right? With the young people, it's shocking. You guys who are my age, think about how it is to connect with a woman right now and how tough it is to date. So like anybody who's hearing me right now, you know that shit is kind of hard right now. The world is kind of gone crazy. So it is time for this radical living life like this, really present moment, living life in your self-interest, and being hardcore like this is the only way that you can acquire health, wealth, and knowledge of yourself. That's it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.
What they overheard, I send this record to the well-respected friends that I've collected. I hope I am what you expected. Yeah, so check it. We can count the dough or kick a flow, but chill out watching videos or acting really silly, yo. But really though, all lacking ain't. Whether at the bar with superstars or cruising in a trooper car, I really don't care who you are. All I really need is a friend.